Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Embellishment Show. Today we have two very special guests with us, Dominic and Frank Daolis. These two gentlemen work at a company called NAPCO, and I'm sure that Dominic, you'll give us a little breakdown on what NAPCO is. But we have both from the design standpoint when it comes to digital embellishment and from the operator standpoint when it comes to digital embellishment. So I'm really looking forward to learning how those two departments really interact together. So first of all, Dominic, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, what you do.
Okay, yeah, I started here in 1987. Back then, we were Vulcan Information Packaging and started out as a graphic artist and then transitioned into being over our pre-press department and then took on marketing. So I wear a lot of different hats, right?
But mostly in the design standpoint, no?
Yeah, mostly design and oversee pre-press, getting files ready for Frank or our other printing departments.
Sure. Very cool. Very nice to meet you. Dominic Frank Daolis. What's up, man? Tell me, what's going on? Tell us a little bit yourself and what you do on a regular basis.
I'm actually the lead person in the digital department. I'm the primary operator on the MGI, and then I do backup and whatnot on the AM1 and our coders and laminators, and over top of our screen printing department.
Wow, so you sound like you have a lot of tech in-house. You have digital printing, digital embellishment, screen printing, and what else did you say you had?
We have a coder to do flood coating of soft touch and operas and whatnot. And we also have a small laminator that will do like our press proofs and stuff on. We can laminate, and then screen printing and a bunch of other stuff.
Very cool. And would you say you guys do mostly packaging? Is that mostly what NAPCO is into?
That is correct. We've done a lot of binders and whatnot, but we're primarily focusing more on packaging going forward.
So it's like you guys are really like the print shop of the future when it comes to digital packaging. A lot of people talk about it. You guys are actually walking the walk.
We're actually moving more towards being able to do a lot of short-run packaging. With the digital embellishing and the digital printing, we can do smaller runs than you don't have to order 500,000 or 100,000. We can do the smaller numbers and make them look as good as the higher-end stuff.
Okay, quick question for you, Frank. What is considered a short run in packaging? Because, that's right. It's not necessarily millions of boxes. And number two, who's buying short run boxes right now? What kind of companies?
We actually do a lot we do some stuff in the pharmaceutical business. Short run for me, I would say a couple thousand boxes rather than, like I said, a couple 100,000 boxes. So we'll do sheet runs of 1,000 sheets, maybe 14 up on a sheet, do like smaller boxes. But like a lot of limited edition stuff, we do stuff for small run, like high-end bourbon. For example, we did a run of 1,600 boxes that they're going to be limited edition and only for a special event. Or sometimes they want to do like a winter marketing piece for a package. We'll do those kind of things.
So really quick question for you, Dominic, is you're running the pre-press, you run a lot of the marketing, you run a lot of the design side. How important is it for you to understand the actual equipment?
It's very important. Over the years, I've worked very closely with the decorating department, whether it's screen printing, short run on a digital Xerox machine, the KM1 now, and the MGI. As a designer, understanding the capabilities of those machines and what we can do really is important. And I try to communicate that to outside designers that bring us projects that sometimes are challenging. We go in and find solutions, basically. Because of knowing what we're capable of printing and decorating, having that knowledge, we can direct a designer or find solutions that maybe come out even better than what they envisioned.
All right, so that's another question I have for you then, Dominic. I'm just going to kind of riff on what you just said. You're trying to guide your clients. So how often do you actually have to educate your clients compared to how often you say, let me just do it, that kind of conversation?
Right. We've had situations where we get a piece of artwork and we might find a different way to do it, and we've even done second, like an option, a second option for the customer. Say, okay, this is what you originally envisioned, and this is what you've got, but here's a little bit better solution that we think. We can make suggestions, and even since it's all digital, we can actually do a proposal, per se, of their design, do a little tweaking, and show them a different way to go about decorating a particular piece. Having a conversation early on is really helpful with outside designers because we can guide them and give them suggestions. So we really like and encourage early conversation with the designers as they're developing their ideas. So we can, and a prime example is one we'll get into later, this bourbon box, we call it, that we'll get into shortly. where we had a discussion early on, and what they originally wanted to do was almost impossible for the equipment. So we found what we think is a better end product from making the changes and tweaks and suggestions.
Very cool. Frank, let me ask you a question. Be honest with me here. How often do you get a file that comes in and you're like, man, I really wish they would have done it this way? When you have a file come in, go back to Dominic and say, hey guys, I think we're leaving some on the table, or do you just let Dominic do all the netting, or how does that work? Talk to me about, as an operator, the need to understand graphic arts and design side.
Fortunately for me, I actually had that graphic design background. I started in graphic design and free press, and then they brought me out to run the machine because of my knowledge. So it's actually really helpful having that background, especially just the MGI interface is so similar to Photoshop when you're editing the files on the machine that if you don't know some of that stuff, like an operator who's a press operator coming more traditional comes over to the machine, you got to learn some of those things all over again. But even knowing what's possible, knowing how the machine works and how it puts down its varnish, especially when you're talking like grayscale images and how you do the different levels, really helps to have that background, because I know what Dominic can do on his end. And sometimes I can just go and do it myself. If I'm running a job and I need to make a quick tweak, I'll run to a Mac and make my changes and send myself a new file.
That's crazy when you compare it to like how things have been done in the traditional sense when you talk about burning a screen or making a die. But Frank, how long did it take you to get that good where you could just automatically make all these changes on the fly? What was the learning period like for you to, from an operator standpoint, to run the equipment smoothly?
Probably a couple months. I picked it up fairly quickly, but then it took a lot of playing with it. Like when I had downtime where there wasn't stuff on the machine, on the press, I would literally have my KM1 operator print me a file just so I can go in there and play and see what was possible.
That's cool.
See how well you could tweak it, or how I could get a sculpted look that I wanted, or achieve whatever. I just played a lot.
I love that. And a lot of the times, like the best operators I've found across the entire world have that kind of mentality where it's just people who want to do it and who are excited about it. And you approach those jobs with almost a sense of wonderment when you see how cool that stuff comes out on the back. I think that's one of the things that kind of links a lot of the operators together. How often, let's go back to Dominic real quick. How often you said you're part of the design process. Sometimes you try to get involved in the design process, but when you're in that process, the job has already been sold. How often are you involved in the sales process when you're talking to brands, when they want to know what's possible or what's not possible? Is it something where you get involved, or do you educate your salespeople to understand what the limitations are, what's possible?
I think it's more on the side of support for our salespeople and education. As we, over the years, when we have new sales reps, we go through a training process and show them what our production is capable of and what is more efficient. The more I'm involved in the early process of sales, the better as our department here, because we can ensure that the end product is what the customer is going to be happy with, and also their budget.
Do you guys do demos with potential clients, or is that not, you guys don't have time to do that kind of stuff? Frank, we'll go with you.
Not as often as I would like. We do higher end customers, or if it's maybe a larger run, we will do some demo work, or I try to do it as often as I can just for my own knowledge. If I know something's coming through, I might play around and say, okay, is what they're asking for conceivable, or how can we do it well? But we're trying to do a little more of that demo stuff and like almost spec art where we go pitch something to them. Hey, how about you do something like this?
That's cool, because once you got them, then hopefully they'll keep coming back to you. But and we've been asking this question to a lot of different printers who are in embellishment. The issue is they don't have time to do that stuff anymore. Maybe at the beginning, but once you start getting filled up, I wish I had time to play, but my machine's filled up. So in a way, you don't need to play anymore, because if you're filling up the machines, then somewhere that's a mission accomplished. Let's talk about proofs, guys. How do you guys proof to your customer? Do you send a hard proof? Do you send them like a digital proof? Do you send them a picture? What's typically been the best practice for you guys?
We always send art proofs. We send a PDF proof for everything we do, regardless. And then our standard is every digital job gets a hard copy proof unless they waive that. And we try to do that as infrequently as possible, let them waive the proof, because you really have to see it. to know what it's going to look like and if it's what you're looking for.
The benefit of having all digital equipment is what we show the customers the real thing. It's the final production piece. Unlike the older traditional proofs we used to do, they weren't really the actual printed piece. But now it's all the actual CMYK print with the embellishments. It's the final thing that they get.
Does that blow your guys' mind at all that you can do that?
Well, it definitely does somebody like me that's been in the business so long. But the younger people getting in the business, it's just part of the process now.
That's amazing how quickly that mentality's changed. And when I hear somebody sending out hard proofs of embellished work as a standard, that's just mind-blowing. I don't know, Frank, what do you think?
Especially with foil stamping.
Yeah.
Because with foil stamping, you'd have to get a plate made, and you have the cost and all the time involved in that, just the time to get it in-house to do one. And then, can you change the artwork? Then you got to start that process all over. So, yeah, it's definitely mind-blowing.
Wow,
Yeah.
so you guys really have everything on lock. So tell me something. Number one, Frank, what's the biggest thing that you've learned about digital embellishments in the past year?
I think one of the things we say all the time is less is more. Don't try to overcomplicate the process or just throw varnish all over the page. Do the subtle stuff. And my thing is, do the stuff that you can't do traditional. Do sculpted varnish. Do sculpted foil. Give it a little pop that you'd never get varnished on a screen printed piece. Make it stand out. The touch factor is huge. Make it so people want to reach down and feel the product. They feel the bumps, feel the ridges or whatever on whatever you're doing. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And it's just a wow factor.
Yeah, definitely pushing the envelope and seeing what you can get away with. How about you, Dominic? What's the one thing that you've learned about digital embellishment in the past year?
It's really the endless possibilities with what you can do. Used to be having a design background. We were so limited on what we could do back then with color separations and traditional foil stamping. It was such a long process and expensive process if you're unsure about stamping or debossing or whatever. A lot of cost and dies and all. But now, anything you can imagine, we can knock it out quickly and have a really nice product. So as a designer, it's just amazing, especially having lived through the old way of doing things.
Sure, it's a dream maker. And it's also important, too, I think, knowing what your limitations are. And so I think a key point to any new technologies is it looks so easy and it comes out and looks phenomenal. But a lot of people who aren't familiar with the process, maybe your clients, have to be educated also on how far you can push it, what the limitations are, and what materials you can use, which ones look better than others. There's always workarounds around other stuff, but if you can make life easy for yourself, why not go there too? I think that's one of the key things too that people should focus on. Frank, you keep talking about this bourbon bottle. First of all, is there any bourbon in it? And number two, you want to walk us through it?
Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. This was a good one to discuss, and actually Dominic was actually the first step of this. This is a good one where they got us in early and they had the designer talk to Dominic in the planning stage and saying, okay, what can we do? What makes sense? And then there was a good part of once it came in here and we started running it, that we talked about it would be easier and actually save the customer a little bit of money if we, instead of doing foil and then varnish on top of the foil, we just did a sculpted foil. And this is the bourbon box here. It was a special edition for a race that was happening in Nashville. It's a company that's got they're in the music industry. They got a partnership with a racing team, and they wanted something really special. And we really talked this one through all the departments to get a good product for them.
Wow. So show us in detail. Bring it up to the camera. Show us the different parts that you did. And what was so tricky about this box? Why was this so hard to do?
Part of it was the paper. Since it's a wrap, the paper's a little thinner than we're supposed to be running. So some of it was trying to work within the limitations of the press and just what would make the most pop for them. Because they wanted, like the car that you see at the top, they wanted the car in foil, and then they wanted varnish on top, sculpted to give you the textures and designs. And we discovered that it would be a lot easier if I just textured that varnish that I put the foil on top of. And then color was a big issue. We did a live press check on this job, and they came in and watched it on press, and we made live tweaks on the spot to their art files on the printing press. And then the same thing with the varnish. When I would hit something, I'd show it to them and say, what if we did this? And then I could make some live changes on the fly. Let them see it in person.
That is so cool.
This is when the customer came to our plant and actually did a press check, did the MGI process. We did tweaking. We did a lot of tweaking after Frank received some of the files and just made some discoveries that helped us to achieve the gold and the car.
Oh my gosh. And that's rigid, man. That's digital rigid, right?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's a wrap. Yeah, the inside, there's the part that holds the bottle.
Wow. Was it any good? Was the bottle any good?
We didn't get to sample the product inside. We got it.
Yeah.
They were afraid to mail a full bottle.
Yeah, I know you guys do a lot of cannabis stuff too, so I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, we definitely don't get that. The state we live in does not allow us to sample the product.
Sure, but now I understand your creativity, Frank. It's now it's making sense though. Is there any piece of advice that you would give anybody who is either designing for or running digital embellishment press out there for the first time? How about you, Frank? Let's start with you.
My thing is sell the limitations of the machine. Sell within what it does really well, because what it does really well is amazing. Push the envelope as much as you can.
Amen, brother. How about you, Dominic? What would you tell?
Yeah, if a designer is aware of digital embellishment and printing, I would encourage them to dig and contact somebody like me that's involved in production and discuss the project early on, and we can guide them and just create the best thing possible for them.
Yeah, one of the things that I think would make really great is if we can get designers on press. Because what it looks like on the screen doesn't always necessarily translate, whether good, bad, or indifferent, but it's not always the same thing. And sometimes you have to live through it and understand, okay, well, if I do it like this, the varnish is going to spread. Or, okay, this is going to plug. This is going to do these things. Understanding physics of the different laminates that I'm using or the different inks or papers that I'm using will affect the flow and spread of that varnish accordingly. So I really love it when designers have the opportunity to come and spend some time on press to get an understanding of what they can do and what they can't do, really. All right, guys. Listen, thanks again for a wonderful discussion. We will definitely look forward to having you guys on again, I hope.
Yeah, that would be great. We're working on 3 or 4 marketing pieces, sample pieces that have to do with the wine and spirits industry that are going to be really nice looking. So it'd be great to have those on.
We'd love to do a spotlight on those.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.